right, today we're going to be talking about Devon LARRATT versus Corey West. This match is coming up this Saturday at East versus West, so make sure you guys buy the pay-per-view, check this match out. I'm very excited about this. Now, today we're going to be looking at some right-handed practice footage between Devon and Corey to try to get some sort of gauge as to where these guys' levels are. I think this is a fun way to do it. Sometimes it might be better to look at recent left-handed matches that these guys have had. I'm not sure if it's better to do that or to look at right-handed practice pulls between the two guys who are actually competing against each other. It's always hard to try to know which is a better thing, a more accurate thing to do there. And arm wrestling math doesn't really work anyway, so this is probably not going to give us a hugely accurate gauge, but it could give us something, and it's always fun to do. So Devon LARRATT versus Corey West on the right arm. The one thing that I notice here, and firstly, let's just say Corey has a huge amount of power. You see Devon starting pretty early here off the back of the pad with that elbow. And Corey, this might be a pin right here, looking really solid. Now, Corey may go off the back of the pad here as well, a little bit, but a lot of power there from Corey West, and he is going to get a pin at some point. And I think Devon may have called that a pin in this video. Corey is going to go through Devon's open top roll here. One thing about Corey is that he has practiced with Michael Todd for years and years at this point. And he's really good at, even if he kind of has some awkward hand control, some sort of awkward containment that really doesn't look ideal. Maybe his wrist is a little bit kinked back. He's still good at having a lot of power there and trying to adjust and improve his position, because he's used to doing that versus Michael Todd, where he never really has what he wants. And as he gets close to that pin pad, it just gets worse and worse. So Corey has had a lot of repetition there in that kind of lane. It's going to be a very similar thing as to what Devon LARRATT does to him on the left arm coming up in just a few days. I think one of the biggest differences there will be probably Devon's all-around ability. In arm wrestling, he has a more complete arm wrestling ability than Michael, but also his setup is going to be a lot more annoying than Michael's setup is. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I have a feeling that Corey is going to be a little bit confused in that setup. He's really not going to get what he needs in terms of depth of grip. And I think it's pretty likely that off the go of the match, he's not really going to have a lot. He might be able to get a pin or two, but what we're going to see right here on this second go, and this is something I've seen with Corey in the past, is that when he doesn't have what he needs, to a certain extent, because he can lose a little bit of that and he's still pretty good, but he definitely does lose quite a bit of power as he starts to get in an awkward position. He doesn't seem to have that kind of full-fledged Jerry Caderet flop press where you really can just lose everything and still pretty much have access to 100% of your arm power. Most people lose a lot of power when they are in this position, when they're totally holding on to their opponent like this. And you can see, as soon as Devon gets a little bit of cup in here, he attacks Corey's pronator just a little bit, and he's really forcing Corey to hold on to him, and you can see Corey's fingers sliding up there. They start here, and then they get totally bunched up, and now Corey really does not have a great lane here. The lane that would be available to him would maybe be for him to wedge in and flop press, but I don't think that Corey has a flop press on the same level as his other move. Now, of course, Corey West is left-handed. Devon LARRATT is right-handed. So potentially, and, you know, Devon has been training his right arm exclusively for a long time. I do believe that this has stopped. Maybe I think he's training his left arm now again, if I remember correctly. So potentially there's a much bigger gap on the right arm with Devon versus Corey. I think most people would agree that the left arm is going to be a lot closer. And Corey's left seems to kind of be his breadwinner arm, the better arm overall. So potentially there's a lot more that Corey can do on that left arm, and maybe he has a better connection to the flop press. But overall, I do think that there's going to be a point in the match. Maybe Corey gets one or two pins, but I do think that there's going to be a point in the match where we see this right here, where Corey really starts to feel that Devon is pulling into his fingertips. Devon is going to get a great setup, and Corey's just going to really not have access to his power. And maybe Corey will surprise me and he'll be able to just dump the wrist and still have all that side pressure, all that shoulder commitments, and just flash pin Devon. Similar to someone like Gennady Quick-Vinya, but on the left arm. I don't really see that happening though, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think Corey is probably going to struggle once he really starts to get into this position you see here where his fingers are all bunched up like this and they kind of slide around, and then he just doesn't really have a great purchase on Devon's hand. So let me know what you guys think about this, but I think probably maybe Corey will get 1 or 2 pins. But it's even that might be a little bit of a stretch because I think that Devon is going to have such a good setup in this match. And I don't think Corey is going to be quite used to that. And so I think we might see something where Corey just looks a little bit confused. He's not really sure how to access his power, even in the early rounds. But I think it's definitely possible that he gets 1 or 2 pins. After that, I do think it's going to start to turn around. Unless, like I said, he does have a super good flop press that is on par with his other moves that I'm unaware of. But at least right here, when we see him kind of try to access that move, I know this practice, they're just messing around, they're having fun, but it does look a little awkward. And even if you're practicing, I know the power is not going to be the same, but just the lane in which Corey tries to access this flop press, it doesn't really look like someone who is a flop presser, if that makes sense. So let me know what you guys think about this. Give me your prediction in the comments. Like I said, I think Devon is going to take this one. Maybe he drops 1 or 2 rounds. So let me know what you guys think about that. Thank you for watching. Make sure to tune in Saturday, and I'll talk to you guys later.